Okay. Just getting the last bits set up here. Let's see, I should be able to, yes. Okay, great. Fantastic. We're gonna start in, we'll just use this one. Is that ours? I guess so. Yeah, that actually sounds about right. So, salutations everyone, my name is Riley Arlic, and this is my game review of Fire Emblem Three Houses. I'm going to try to show you a little bit of the game, I'm going to give you my review, I'm going to talk about the 4 different story paths, and of course if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer them along the way. Starting off, I've been playing Fire Emblem games for quite some time. I have not played all of them. And of those that I have played, I have not played them all to completion, but I love many of the Fire Emblem games, and it's been a kind of a staple of my gaming career. As you can see, here's just 2 of the game files that I played through, and you're looking at, you know, over 240 hours of gameplay, not counting the game that I actually streamed, which was the Blue Lions gameplay. But in this one, I went ahead and on this other account, I went ahead and I played through the other 3 storylines. So I'm going to load up this one, which I think is somewhere in the middle of one of the storylines. I will say that there are spoilers. There will be a couple of spoilers ahead. I will try to keep the major story spoilers towards the end of the stream. But otherwise, there may be little bits here and there that get spoiled along the way as well. So I do apologize for that. Be wary, be aware that that is the case. This is a game review. It's not going to be in-depth into the nitty-gritty. I've never been a hardcore Fire Emblem player, but I think that the review that I give here is going to be valuable for most players that have looked at the game and they're like, hey, do I care about this? You know, I've never been into Fire Emblem before. What's it about? What is it like? What can I expect going forward? So I can tell you right now that you're going to see this particular screen a lot through your gameplay. What we have here is a calendar. Fire Emblem is a tactical role-playing game where you play as, in this case, the guy on the left, who you can name whatever you want, but apparently the in-game name is Byleth. And you embark on a major storyline that sees you uncover mysteries, attack enemies, build up your army, uncover powerful weapons, and level up your characters to new heights of power. In order to do that, you play in missions. And what we're going to do is see if we can't go through this mission here. So this is kind of deeper into the game. Combat at Tailteen Plains. I'm going to skip any sort of dialogue or anything like that. I'm just going to show you some of the game mechanics to give you an idea of what you can expect. So, we're going to dive into this. We're going to deploy for combat. I'm going to press the plus key. Yeah, I guess we'll save right there. That's fine. Actually, if you tilt your controller, you can control the little guy down at the bottom there. I am skipping the storyline. Don't care. We will talk about that kind of stuff later. All I really want to do here is show you guys what combat looks like. So, after a couple of loading screens, if you press B, you can make that little guy jump. You'll see this screen quite a bit. It's not the fastest game to load, because there are a lot of assets that load into the game, so at least they have this little dude that you can play with by tilting your controller and pressing B. You'll see there's various tips, because there's a couple of different layers to the game. But probably the most important layer is going to be the actual combat screen, which we're going to see shortly. So here we go. What we have here is our preparation phase of the game. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the map. So we have our characters. This is the playthrough of the game where you ally yourself with Edelgard. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So what you have is your various characters that are going to be spread around the map. They're all going to have the blue health bars, and your enemies will be arrayed before you with red health bars. If you hover over an enemy, you'll see a bunch of blue and red squares appear, okay? That is their threat range. The blue squares is how far they can move, and the red squares then is how far they can attack. If I select this guy with details, I can see the weapons he's equipped with along with all of his stats. This game makes everything as transparent as possible in terms of what the enemies have, so you can formulate your strategy. Now there's a lot here, and I'm not going to go over every little bit, but basically, the higher the numbers, the better something is as something, right? So you have the equipment that it has, you have the combat arts that it has, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. You have the battalion that it has, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then over here, if I can move over to it. Yeah, and then you hit X again, and you can see the details of individual things on top of that. Similarly, your characters all have the exact same level of stats and things like that. And we can look at that by pressing X, and we can see a very in-depth stat screen. You have a lot of information here. All of the weapons that your character is equipped with, the combat arts, which are the special moves that they get to use, all of their stats and what those stats do. You have your HP, your level, those should be familiar with it for anybody that's played any RPGs before. You have their experience, affiliation and class, crest, which is a minor buff that some characters get, not all characters get, as well as the various abilities that they get as they level up their characters. So, for example, Professor's Guidance is something that only your character gets, being a professor. I believe, yeah, only Byleth gets this ability. Along with other abilities that they've gained along the way, and then other abilities that you've equipped. They're a battalion, and all sorts of things like that. For every single character. Their skills, this represents how good they are with any particular skill, as well as any magic that they've learned. One big difference from this Fire Emblem game, from last Fire Emblem games, is that you no longer have to equip spells individually. Your character learns them, and then as long as they are of a particular class, they will be able to use those skills as many times as you can see. So, for example, Aura can be used 3 out of 3 times, and that will go down through the course of the battle as you use it. You have, of course, the classes that your character has any experience in. The circle means that they can learn that, or have learned it, and then the star means they have mastered that skill and have gained the mastery level skill as a result. Classes 2, more of the same. So you have master, advanced, intermediate, beginner, and unique classes. Unique, obviously, these are specific to those character, for example, the enlightened one. Any other notes? This is where you'll see a little bit of storyline kind of stuff, such as, I guess I can't hover over any of that kind of stuff, but you can see the year that goes missing during the Battle of Garreg Mach, a little bit of a spoiler there, and then other details there, as well as their activity points, which we'll go through, and commander of the Black Eagle Strike Force, and then close allies, and different things like that. Every character has a stat page like this, okay? There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of characters. In fact, in this playthrough, I got not everyone, but most. You can see during this game, this playthrough, I was playing mostly with the female characters. I had a lot of fun trying to max out the various builds that you could get, and then a lot of my male characters are kind of lagging behind. You can see they don't have as much equipment or anything like that. Just the way that I wanted to play the game. You can play the game however you like. So, how do you actually play a battle? Well, we're going to go through a couple little things here. Normally, you would prepare your units. You would give them any sort of arrangement. You would select your units. You would select any adjutants that would be assigned to your units that can help them gain experience points, even if they're weak. You can adjust their inventory, change their abilities, their combat art, their battalions. You can even change their class before you go into a battle. So if I'm like, I would rather Riley wasn't, this Wyvern Lord, I want him to be an Enlightened one, I could change that before the battle begins. And that would change the abilities that he has access to and other things like that. So you have a lot of control over what you do on the battlefield. And then on top of that, you can move your characters around. So let's say I want, you know, this character over here because this character is a little bit slower, so I'll put the horse in the back because the horse will have an easier time catching up. You know, I can move those around. Usually there will be your leaders, special characters that you won't be able to move, but everything else you can kind of shift around. Let's say I want, you know, this healer back here. Boom, done. I have my 2 Pegasus Knights up here. You can tell with the wings and all of that. So I've maneuvered everything around. Support refers to support conversations that your characters have that increases their abilities when they're next to each other. That's a common thing for a lot of Fire Emblem games, so I won't go too far into that. On top of that, you even have access to the marketplace. So before you go into battle, if you have a weapon that's about to break, yes, weapons do break, you can go ahead and buy some and equip them to your characters right off the bat. So that's some stuff that you weren't able to do before. This was all kind of stuff that you had to do well ahead of time before you went into battle in previous Fire Emblem games. So they do give you a lot of abilities right ahead of each map that you play. So we're going to fight a little bit. Again, I've already beaten the game, so I'm not too worried about this. You're going to have a little bit of a hush. You're going to have a little bit of a goal. Generally, defeat the enemy, and then your losing mechanism will be if one of your special characters dies. So, you can see as I hover over all of my characters, they all have the similar kind of blue squares that denote their movement, as well as red squares that denote how far they can attack. For example, I've got Ingrid here. She is currently a Pegasus Lord. She has an incredibly long range. She can fly clear over other obstacles and enemies, and she can attack quite a long way. So let's take a look at what that looks like. You click on a character, you get this arrow. And the arrow shows you, it kind of smart selects a path for you to go down. You can kind of edit that as you go. Select a square that you want to go to, fly over here, and then you'll have a selection of things that you can do. Dismount in case you don't want to actually be on top of your Pegasus Knight or whatever other mount that your character may have. Gambit uses their battalion abilities. I'll go over that later. And then attack. Here, you can use your various abilities. For example, the Arrow of Indra, a special weapon that you can get later, you can use, and then you can attack an enemy. When you attack an enemy, you get this screen right here. You see all of your abilities at the top, and all the enemy abilities at the bottom. On top of that, you see your HP and their HP. You can see whether they can attack you, and in this case, this enemy cannot, because they have no ranged abilities. You'll see how many times you're going to attack, which is the 25 times 2. That is the amount of damage that you'll do per attack. 97% is the hit chance, and 17% is the crit chance. I've got a pretty good chance of killing this guy, so let's give it a shot. Boom. Killed that guy right away. Gain a little bit of experience points, and that character's move is now done. You do that for each of the different characters that you have. So, Leonie right here isn't in range to catch to hit anybody, but she can move up to here. But then I see this red line appears. That red line tells me that an enemy will be able to attack her on their turn, okay? So if I think this character can tank this attack, I'm not going to worry about it. If not, maybe I'll change until I can move to a spot where I don't see that red line. You can also see the red line, what character is involved. I see it's this caster over here, so they have some, ridiculously long range attack. I'm not too worried about it. I move the character there, I can hit wait. That character's movement is now done. Easy peasy. I've got Petra over here, who, again, is a Pegasus Knight. She doesn't have a range attack, but she also can move quite far. In this, I can also see characters that have a support level with Petra. So, for example, my good friend Bernadetta here has a B support level with Petra. So if Petra is close to Bernadetta, her stats will go up. I also have combat arts like before. In this case, I have swap. This should be pretty handy. This is a special move that will allow me to swap places with a character. Bernadetta hasn't moved yet, so I use swap, and then I can still move with Petra because she's a Pegasus Knight. She has that ability. Wait over there by that person over there. Bernadetta has pretty much gotten a free square of movement. Bernadetta is now going to slide all the way over here. You can see she has a B attack with her friend. She's going to use a combat art, which is a special ability. Usually it will take more durability off of your weapon. Like I said before, weapons do have durability. They can break. But you will usually get a better ability for it, or a better attack for it. Let's try just the steel bow, And let's attack this guy over here. Boom, I did some damage. So in this case, I wasn't able to kill the character, and so they are still on the battlefield. Next up, we're going to go with my character right here. I'm going to throw him right out the front. I don't really care. It's all fine. He's pretty tough, and then we'll follow up with another character here. So this sort of thing would continue.
Let's make this quick.
It'll move all your characters. You'll use their various special abilities. In this case, all these characters down here are magic users. You can see Dorothea actually has a very long-range attack that you start to get at the end of the game. And we're going to see if we can finish off this character over here with Meteor. And pop, there it goes. That enemy is now dead. You will gain some experience points and weapon skills and things like that for hurting enemies as well as killing enemies. So it can be useful at times to simply hurt an enemy instead of trying to kill them off in one shot every time, depending on the game that you're going through. Now we go into the enemy phase. They're all going to do their little, you know, whatever sort of lines, blah, 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 don't care. And they are going to start to move and to attack. This all will happen automatically. Your characters will also get to strike back, just like their characters would be able to strike you back if they had the range on you. So in this case, they're attacking Bernadetta. Bernadetta has a special ability that allows her to shoot her arrow in close range. She levels up. She's going to get a random roll of stats that will determine which stats go up. And that is dependent upon the class, okay? She's a bow knight, so she has a pretty good chance of getting speed, dexterity, and I think resistance as well in her stat roll. But she can also get other stats as well. For example, she got a +1 in magic. She doesn't have any magic in this class, but if she were to reclass or start to go into a magic class, maybe that would be useful. Every character has their own sort of spread of randomized stat increases, and then that is added to the class stat increases. So there is a way to min-max every single character in every single class. I didn't do that ever. I'll just say that right now. I did not do that ever. I played in normal difficulty, casual difficulty, so my characters don't die permanently and things like that, because I just have a nice relaxing time, slowly grinding up my characters and things like that. But that's something that if you care to, you can pay attention to. So, they'll say a line and the game continues. All these characters will have their various attack animations. You can see this character has a very, very long range, did some pretty decent damage on all of that. And I believe, yep, ooh, that's a big attack on Bernadetta, but she is going to attack back, get a nice critical, and we continue right along. So, it's back to me. So that is, whoops, that is the normal flow of the game. Now, what I just did there is a special ability that you get in this game called Divine Pulse. It's a way to undo what you did. So you can see there's a list here on the right-hand side. If I go down that list, it will go down through each action that each model took. And I can select a point at which I wish to go back in time and redo or change anything I wish to do. I can even go all the way back to the original start of the game and play through that. Okay? It will tell me how many units I have not used or how many units I have, as well as what turn it is, and all of the above. So if you make a critical mistake and a character dies or you lose, you can use Divine Pulse to go back in time a certain number of times per playthrough to undo those things. That's a special ability that the game gives you. And that, I believe, was also the case in Fire Emblem Awakening or one of the previous games as well. They gave you kind of an undo time mechanic. So, normally I would go through, kill all the enemies, you know, have all the fun, get all the loot. One thing to keep in mind is that there are different terrain features. There are chests that you can open with keys or thieves. This little green icon next to this guy means that he has a piece of treasure, so if you kill him, then you will get that piece of treasure. But you have to get all of those things. You have to unlock the chest before you clear the win condition. So, that's how all of that works. Now, we are going to go ahead and finish this playthrough real quickly. I'm going to go ahead and heal Bernadetta. I can do that with assist abilities. Get a nice heal off there. That works well. Let's see how quickly we can kill off these characters and do the win condition. It shouldn't take me very long. My characters are pretty kind of brokenly powerful, so I'm not too worried because I tend to like doing a lot of the grind in this. Depending on the map, you will be limited on the number of turns. There are some maps that do limit you on how many turns you have because enemies are coming in and you're going to be overwhelmed. But on most missions, you are not limited at all. You can take it as slow as you want. Silence here is an ability that can stop an enemy mage from attacking. So I just cast that on that really long-range mage, so now they won't be able to do anything next turn. That helps me out quite a bit. Probably not going to matter because I'm just going to kill it with Petra. Yeah, just like that. Bop, down she goes. So I'm just going to try to clear the way. Let's have my character fly up here, and we're going to use the Axe of Zoltan and slice that guy to pieces. You can tell that this is normal mode because I'm having a very easy time slicing through these characters. Here again, a level up, I get a random allotment of stat points. You can see movement generally doesn't level up unless you change classes or something like that. So he's up there. I've got characters over here. Let's use Edelgard to slice and dice this guy with her special axe. Splat. Easy peasy. Once in a while, you'll see another character appear on the right-hand side. That's an adjutant. That's a character you can add to another character, and they will attack with that character and can get level up and skill up as well. Just like Jurica, even though I was using Leone, Jurica here was attached to Leone and went ahead and leveled up as well. A great way to assist lower level characters to leveling up. Okay, it's going to be the enemy phase. They're going to rush in, and ooh, we have a big monster. Yes, okay. This is perfect because this will help me show how some of these monster mechanics will work. You can see we're getting lots and lots of characters on the field right now. We're going to skip whatever they have to say. I really don't care. And Petra is going to go ahead and slay that guy right there.
Watch and learn.
Yep. So they are all going to... I should be able to skip their entire turn. There we go. If you hit plus, you can skip a lot of different things. Makes it really easy to move along. So we have a monster. This is a new thing in Fire Emblem Three Houses, a monster. If you look at it, you can see that it takes up 4 squares. And when I hover over this thing, it has the same threat range as many other things. It also has 2 diamonds next to its health bar. That means it actually has 3 health bars. Each time you deplete a health bar, it will get rid of one of those diamonds. And you have to deplete all 3 of its health bars to defeat it completely. You can also kind of see a faint yellow square over each of the squares that it takes up. Those are also barriers. If you break those barriers, you can stun the monster and get extra damage through. And it will not be able to attack if you successfully stun it by breaking all of its barriers. Some barriers will take 2 hits to get through. Some barriers will only take 1 hit to get through. And this will be a great opportunity to talk about battalions. I have here, let's see if I can use, I may need to reposition. There we go. Okay. There is Leone. I repositioned just to get Edelgard a little bit closer. So I'm going to run up with Edelgard, and you can see she has gambits. I talked about this a second ago, but a gambit uses a battalion. A battalion, as you can see, is a regiment of troops that you apply to a character, and that regiment is able to attack multiple squares and therefore multiple enemies. In the case of handling this monster, it will be able to attack all squares of the monster, which will be able to weaken its barrier in 1 shot. So, let's do that right now. There she goes. She sends her battalion out. There's a much more in-depth animation when you have those animations turned on. I have them turned off for the sake of brevity. So, you can see that that battalion set the whole area on fire, so the monster will take more damage on top of that. Its barrier is now broken in several places and weakened in others. And it is currently stunned. If I sent another character after it, that other character would not have to worry about any sort of retribution because of the monster's current status. For example, if I bring Petra over here, she doesn't have to worry about the flames because she's a flying unit. I can use a gambit as well, but she will only attack the 2 squares in front of her. So, because she has a different battalion. I'm going to go ahead and do that. She's going to get an assist from Edelgard and do even more damage. There's the first health bar done. The monster is not dead. The monster will have 2 more health bars to fight through. You can see one of those gems shatters and its health bar fills back up again. But where I attack, this is kind of the strategy. If I attack the areas where the barrier is weakened, I will do more damage. If I attack the areas where the barrier is still there, I will do less damage, but I will break the barrier. So we'll let those 2 characters kind of handle that situation. And I will start to bring... let's do Meteor on this guy to weaken him up. There we go. Let's just get the other characters moved up. Just going to keep using the steel bow. Bernadette is kind of a beast. Look at that critical. Absolutely incredible. Oh.
Not my good.
So we are making good progress. This is a relatively small map, and it is an important storyline map. Combat arts, drawback, I will do that just to move the characters along a little bit faster. And let's get silence put on this guy right over here. There we go. That way that person's not going to be able to use any spells. We'll level up pretty quick. Okay, we are going to attack this guy. That's going to do a whole heck of a lot of damage. Maybe I don't want to do that. That's better. There we go. Weaken that guy up, wait over here, and then if you hit the right trigger, or I'm sorry, the right bumper, you can switch between characters pretty easily. I don't really care about those guys over there. I would rather go ahead and defeat the main leader, so I'm going to bring my guy over here. Yeah, skip. Oh, and he has turned into a monster. Okay, so we have multiple monsters to deal with. These are all spoilers, so I'm trying to skip through them so we don't spoil too much. But we will see what happens. We're going to go ahead and skip through the enemy's phase just to speed that along. And we now have a lot of things to worry about right now. Look at all this. Okay, so this monster is still an issue. I'm going to go ahead and use another gambit to try to break its shield. Here we go. Sometimes the shields will also regenerate, so you do have to worry about that. But there we go. We have broken the shield completely, and now the monster is stunned and will not be able to attack next turn. You also get some items at the end of a monster's shield being broken, which is another reason that you might want to break the shields to harvest some of those rare items. But Edelgard will probably be able to handle this guy just fine on her own, even though he has one more bit of health. Okay. Let's get Leonie over here. We're going to Brave Bow that. She's going to level up. Different weapons have a lot of different abilities and really kind of drastically change up what your characters can do. So use them wisely. Let's go ahead and use my own character's Gambit. You can see the Gambit boost can apply to up to 4 characters, which gives you a lot of extra bonuses. So attacking a lot of people... so attacking a monster with 1 Gambit is a great way to take them down really quickly. You will also notice that there is a red, big red area. That means that the monster is going to attack in that whole range. Now, the monster also gets drawn into various Gambits. So he should attack the character that attacked him last, or the character that used a Gambit on him last. So here we go. We're going to try to break his shield with this. And then we're going to bring Ingrid back around to the other side. And then we're going to continue over here. So, we've got a lot of characters over here that should be able to handle this side pretty easily. Let's start here with some good old-fashioned Nosferatu. And we are going to skip that dialogue and let her fade away right there. That is going to be a great boon to us. We are then going to use our longbow to take out that guy. There we go. And continue to bring our characters up the field. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to use Physic on Leonie to keep her alive. There we go. How often can you do the gambits? You get, I believe, 2 gambits per character. And then they become exhausted. So, using your gambits, that's a really good question, is kind of important to use them wisely. You don't want to waste them on a single enemy when you have the opportunity to... and there's that big attack. Let's see if it hits. Boom. It misses. Okay. So you want to use your gambits wisely. You can see his shield just regenerated, which is going to be troublesome for us. And because each character only has 2 gambits, that means you're probably going to have to bring in multiple to finish off certain enemies or certain monsters. The big thing about gambits is that enemies typically do not get to retaliate against them. So it's a good way to get pretty much free damage in at certain points. So, let's go ahead and... this guy is still over here. Can we finish him off? Yes, we can. That monster is now no longer an issue. Off it goes. Okay, we're going to have Petra kind of take care of this backfield. She kills that in one shot. So I don't have to worry about it. A little bit concerned about some of this. You know what I can do? I have Warp on this character, and she can come all the way over here. So, boop! Dorothea is going to be warped right across the field by Lysithea, and that will help her immensely. We're going to wait there. Wait there. You can see horses can move quite quickly, but they're having a hard time going across this shoal here. Terrain has very different effects on different units, so kind of keep that in mind as you play through. Let's go ahead and see if... yeah, let's have her attack from range. There we go. That'll weaken him up. And then... We'll attack from there. Ingrid levels up. And bear with me just one moment. Okay. My cat decided now would be a great time to knock something over. Okay. Back to it. So, she can do that, and then scooter boot over here. I really need to take this guy out. Let's use the hand axe so that he can... Ooh, maybe that's not going to work. Thankfully, there's no friendly fire when it comes to gambits, so you don't have to worry about hurting your own characters if they are in line of a gambit attack. But there we go. Now he is stunned because some of his shields have broken. And hopefully... I might just try to... Let's go here. Yeah, we'll use the hand axe. Hope for a crit. There we go. And wait there, and then it will be the enemy phase one more time. Okay. So this is how the game will play out. You have to make decisions on how you use every single unit to fit your personal strategy. If you want to have an army full of archers, you can do it. If you want to have an army where you only use axes, you can do it. If you want to have an army full of magic users, you can do that as well. One thing they got rid of in this Fire Emblem game is they got rid of the weapon triangle. It used to be that swords were good against axes, axes were good against spears, and spears were good against swords. That's now no longer the case. Different weapons simply have different attributes and affect different characters in different ways, and you have to learn different skills in order to level up certain classes. So, with that, you can see some characters have some auto-heal abilities, which is quite convenient. With that, you can make your strategy whatever you want. You're no longer really tied to having one... having to make a balanced team of all these different weapons. You can have pretty much whatever you want. Now, magic is going to be worse against some enemies and better against others. And then physical weapons like bows and axes are going to be good against some enemies and worse against others. There are also skills that you can learn that kind of reinstate the weapon triangle. Oop, accidentally hit that button again. But we're going to see if I can get my character cheekily over to the bad guy over here. Oh, she missed. And see, so there a character died. Didn't necessarily want that, but there it is. Let's see if the Arrow of Indra can help. Skipping through the dialogue to not reveal too much. Bring her over here, and then I'm hoping that I can finish him off and end this combat. There we go. So, there's a lot of story. I had to skip through a lot of different bits of dialogue along the way. Every character has something to say, which can be a good or bad thing depending on how invested you are in the storyline. So we're going to save the progress here. That should be fine. And then this should take us into more story, which I believe... Well, I think that might actually take us right into the end game. I can't remember if I can... I'm trying to get back to the normal monastery and stuff like that. If not, then I have a kind of a backup plan. It might actually send us pretty far along. Skip, skip, skip. Come on, game. Give me what I want. Like, this is one of the reasons that there's 100 hours into each of these gameplay. Each of these things has different story that's a little bit different for each of the settings. So, I wonder if it will let me or if it's just going to dive right into the last battle. I can't remember. I think it actually... A little bit of a spoiler here, but I think when you hit that last battle, it really doesn't give you a chance to do anything much else. But let's find out. We're finding out together, guys. We're finding out together. Okay, so it went right in. That's fine. So what we're going to do instead is we are going to go home, and we're going to close that. And then we're going to start back in here. And let's see if I can... show you a couple more things, and then what I'll do is I'll kind of explain a little bit of the rest with probably some screenshots and things like that. Okay. So we're going to continue. This should send us back to that mission select screen if everything is the way that I think it is. Let's find out. Or is it not? Otherwise, I totally messed it up. That's fine. I did. Okay, I messed it up. That's fine. So, one more time. Back to the front and close software. And then we are going to... probably, I wonder if there's another save file that I have that I could hop into. I apologize for the goof. But yeah, so that's the main kind of playthrough that you will experience in terms of each of the missions. There are training missions you can do, there are storyline missions you can do, there are also side story missions that you can do, and other things as well. This right here should give me what I want. This save file right here. It's a little bit earlier into the game. What I was showing you there was one of the last missions, so I apologize for the spoilers. But, like I said, there's going to be spoilers all throughout. We'll talk about the actual story in a little bit. I just want to show you the other side of the gameplay, which I should be able to do here. Like I said, you're going to see a lot of these loading screens, so if loading screens are not fun to you, then I wouldn't recommend picking up this game. It's loading a lot of assets. It's loading a lot of different assets here. Okay, so this is a different save file. You can see I have a female character. You can choose whichever one you want. I'm kind of hoping that I can do... Yes, okay, so here is a big menu of all the different things that you can work with. Goals. These are how you determine... So one of the big things that they emphasize in this story is that you are a professor, okay? And you are training a certain class of students to become stronger. The way that you do that is through holding various lessons. And each character will gain experience in the things that you determine for them. And you can do that by setting their goals. We're going to take Linhart here. You can see he's studying currently a reasonable distance, whatever that is. But he is currently studying... Reason, which is how you use a lot of the wind and fire and you know, magic spells like that. I can instead go into a custom thing, and I could train him in sword. Let's say I don't want him to learn any magic. I can do that right here. I can swap it into sword, and then I can choose a second one, like faith, and now he's going to start training in sword and faith. And then if I look back here, you can see he's got an E rank in sword and an A rank in faith, because actually he's a spellcaster and he's quite good at that stuff. So you really have an incredible amount of control over what your characters learn. Some characters will also have, if I can find one here, custom focus. I want to say Bernadette. Yes, okay, so you can see Bernadetta has 3 stars next to the horse riding. That is a hidden skill. As you train in that skill, it will unlock those stars, and when it's unlocked all 3, then she will suddenly get a massive boost to using that skill, and usually a free ability as well. So that's one thing you can do. You can set all those things. In terms of the roster, you can see all of those different stats. You can see all the different characters that you have gained along your path. And you can see in this one, I've tried to get pretty much everyone. I've gotten most everyone except for some of the other main characters. And through that, I can see what they're good at, what they're bad at, what their stat spreads are, what their stat strengths are, and all these other kinds of things like that. You also have your inventory. This is, again, how you control which character has what item. You can trade your items around and all sorts of things like that. You can see Ash has only an iron bow. Let's say that I wanted to give him something extra. I can click this empty space, go over to bows, and I can give him this extra longbow that I have. Boom, now he has a longbow. You also can swap out your abilities. So Ash has currently bow range +1, lockpick, which is what it says. He also has these other abilities that are currently equipped. Some of them are more useful than others. And other characters will have different sets of abilities. You can see Bernadetta has not only the abilities that she's equipped with, but also these other ones on the right-hand side, which I can manually swap around. So let's say that I want to trade that one for HP +5. Now her HP is 42 instead of 37. Great, she's ready to go. You can control all of that from here. Certain characters will get lots of abilities, like Petra has tons and can work with just about any weapon. And you'll have other characters that don't have so many abilities, like Marianne, for example, who is really kind of focused on healing, and so she's going to get mostly healing abilities and maybe a couple others. There's also the combat arts. You will get more combat arts as you go. Some characters don't get many, while other characters get quite a few. And each combat art will have a weapon that's associated with it, with that particular combat art. If the combat art has a star, like this one, it doesn't require any weapon. it's usually a utility that that the character can use at any time, no matter what class or weapon they have equipped. Then you have your battalions. With your battalions, you can see how much endurance they have, their level, how many times you can use that battalion ability, so in this case 2 out of 2, and then also the squares that it will affect in front of your character. So in this case, 3 squares in front of your character in a line. This one affects your character or hits everyone in a circle around an enemy with 1 square around that enemy. What's another one? This one affects an enemy by the red arrow and affects other enemies into a 2-block radius. This one starts on your character and goes forward by 4 squares, and so on and so forth. And different abilities will have, different battalions will have different abilities. This one is Resonant White Magic, so this is a healing ability that affects lots of different characters from your character ahead of you in a 2x3 area. Then you have the Reclass. You can change your character's class. Generally, you will want to train your characters in multiple classes so that once one character class is mastered, you can move over to another one. So, for example, with Edelgard, once she masters the Wyvern Rider, I can pull her back and also master the Fighter, and even though she'll grow in stats, slower because it's a beginner-level class, she will then be able to get that particular class mastery ability. Then you have the support conversations. You can see any character that has this little blue dialogue box will be able to talk to other characters with that dialogue box and increase their support level. If it's grayed out, it means that you have to pass a certain storyline before you can get that. Some characters will cap out at B, some at A, and some can go all the way to S. S rank is usually reserved to your main character and usually reserved to characters that can marry you as well, which is something that's kind of a big deal in this game. So usually, most characters. Here's a great example. Most characters will only date. You'll only be able to marry characters of the opposite gender. Petra, for example, is only interested in characters of the opposite gender. A quick way you can tell is because I have a female main character and I don't have any S rank here. On the other hand, Dorothea is a little bit more open-minded. You can marry Dorothea even if you are a male or female character. And that goes for, certain characters across the board. Here you have quests. Quests are things that various NPCs will give you along the way. And my cat just dropped something again. Oh my god. Cat, I swear. Get out of here. Being obnoxious. Okay. Storehouse, you'll have a bunch of random abilities there that have various effects that you'll gather along your various quests in the Monastery. A lot of these are gifts that you can give your characters to make them like you more, and other things like that. Save, guide, tells you everything about everything. Options, difficulty, settings, and all sorts of things like that. And, of course, your calendar. From here, you can also train your characters in certifications. If you have a character that has a red circle, that means that they can go ahead and take a certification. They will then have a chance of passing that certification. So, for example, with Edelgard, let's say I want to teach her the Armored Knight. You can see her texture changes based on every class that you can take. So you can see them in all sorts of different cool outfits, which is kind of cool. If you select that, you need a seal, which is an item that is kind of rare in the game at the start, but you get a lot more of as you go. You take the certification, hit yes. The character will do this little test animation. And if you succeed, they will go ahead and be able to take that class. Simple as that. Sometimes when they get into a class, they will also have some bonuses that will apply to them and other things like that. If they are selectable, it means you can try, but you may fail. So let's take this one in the advanced class down here with Lindhart. I can have him try to take the test to become a warlock, but he only has a 30% chance of passing. Something to keep in mind. As you get more abilities, for example, with the warlock, I believe it requires, reason. So if I train him more in reason and he gets A rank or higher in reason, it is very likely that chance of passing will go to 100%. So that's how that system works. A little bit different from how they've done it in past Fire Emblem games. It used to be that you just applied the seal and it automatically happened. But with this system, you can kind of stack up different classes that they can move into later. So, for example, with Edelgard, she's already this Wyvern Knight. Now I've kind of stacked up the Armored Knight so that when she's mastered that one, I don't have to return anywhere to change her class. I can change the class, like I said earlier, right in the middle of a battle, or right before a battle, and then start training her into the new class immediately. Pretty nice way to do that. Okay. Marketplace, Armory, you buy weapons. Item shop, you buy random items. Battalion Guild, this is where you can hire the various battalions. They can do all sorts of different things. You can see all these different kinds of things. Can't apply to this character because she's a Pegasus Knight. But let's say here, yeah, here we go. So I can select any of these battalions, apply them immediately to this character, and off we go. The Blacksmith, this is where you can forge and repair weapons. You can get some special weapons out of this. You can also repair weapons that you really like. For example, and it's usually better to repair a weapon. It's more efficient than to buy a brand new one. This is also how you can get weapons to have this little plus sign, which means they're just a little bit more efficient and they have more uses. That pretty much describes everything about this particular screen. The big thing to take note is, obviously we're prepared for a fresh mission here, but you'll see a bunch of other things along the way. Everything between Tuesday and Saturday on this calendar is usually just skipped completely. There's maybe a couple of holidays that will happen in this calendar that you'll see, and you'll have a little option to do something. But generally, the things that you're looking out for are the things on Sunday and the things on Monday. Whew. I've been talking nonstop for about an hour now. What I'm going to do real quickly is go to... we're going to pull up a browser real quick. Fire. We're going to bring up a quick thing real quick. Let's see if I can bring this up. I'm just going to go over this kind of quickly. But the other way that you will play a lot of this game is going to be in this extra image here. Okay. This right here. Okay. So what we see here is a little image of the Monastery. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. You physically run around the monastery. You complete quests, which you can see on the map on the right-hand side. Every one of these little yellow and blue circles is different people to talk to. Excuse me, the blue circles are people in your class. The yellow circles are everyone else. There are various things that you do. You fish, you garden, you complete various fetch quests and things like that. You can upgrade a variety of things. You can help motivate people by giving them gifts. This is all done in the monastery thing, which every single instance on the right-hand side of the calendar is an opportunity to do that. When you go into, when it is this particular date, you have a opportunity to explore, in this case, battle, in this case, which would be to go to a training battle or a mission battle or something that doesn't really have to do with the storyline, or do a variety of other things. For example, participate in this, Fish of Mystery thing. There are also other things that this tells you about. Ingrid's birthday. If you give her a gift, you can have tea with her on that birthday, increase your relationship with her and stuff like that. There's golden fish to get. There's special bonuses for gardening that day. There's special bonuses for eating in the cafeteria that day, and all sorts of things like that. There's a lot of nuance to this. What I would recommend, instead of, me going through a massive guide, is to play through it yourself if you care to, or if you really are burning for these kinds of answers, look up a guide on what each of these little things does. Generally, it's a resource management that allows you to manage your character's motivation, which determines how many times they can be trained. The more motivation you get by eating with people or giving them gifts, the more times they can be trained, which means they get skills and various abilities like swordsmanship or using a bow or using magic faster. That's it. It is a massive time sink. So, what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn off this really sad music, and I'm instead going to turn on some a little bit nicer music, I think. Let me see if I can get my my chipper music playing here. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Let me know if that's a little too loud. So, let's kind of go through now what I like and what I dislike about this game. No, I'm sorry. We're going to go through the storylines, okay? So, with the story, you always are this one character. There are effectively two major decisions that actually affect the story in this game. That's it. Two major decisions. Nothing else. The first one is which house you want to follow. The Crimson Eagle House? Or the Red Eagle House, the Blue Lion House, or the Golden Deer House. Each of them lets you start off with different characters. There's a different main character. This in the Red Eagles, it's Edelgard, or Black Eagles. Black Eagles, that's what it is. It's Edelgard. In the Blue Lions, it's Dimitri. And in the Golden Deer, it is... what's his name? I forget his name. It's been a little while since I played. It's, why can't I see the name of this character? Tell me what I want to know, Internet. Tell me what I want to know. Claude. Claude, that's what it is. Oh my goodness, I could not remember his name for the life of me. They all have very different personalities. They all have very different goals. Here's where I will start really emphasizing the spoilerific part of the stream. If you don't want spoilers, mute, turn away, go do something else. It's all fine. Dimitri is at first glance, he is a very, very noble character. He is very adamant about trying to uphold honor and uphold the kingdom that he represents. But as you go through his story, you learn that there's a lot more darkness to him, that he has a very, very deep hatred for certain people that killed his family, and you confront him and his darkness as you go. He is your ally all the way through, but that's kind of how it pans out. Edelgard wants to return the Empire to its former glory. And at one point, you either have to determine whether you're going with her or going without her. That's the only other major decision that you have to make. And then the final thing is Claude simply wants to bring peace to the land. His is probably the most goody two-shoes of the storyline, but there are some interesting twists and actually a lot of interesting characters along the way. Of the storylines, I preferred Claude's the most, even though he's kind of a character that I normally wouldn't like. He's very much a schemer, and because of that, he can come off as very flippant and very haughty, but he ends up being actually really endearing, and he has kind of the most noble of the goals across all of them. I think his storyline also has like the true happy ending across it all, whereas the other endings tend to be rather tragic. With Dimitri, you finally get your revenge. He finally recovers. There are characters that die, that don't die, and all sorts of other things like that. With Edelgard, if you go without her, then she's the enemy, and you have to fight her. In the three major storylines, she becomes the enemy, and she betrays you all. If you go with her, then Rhea the matron of the church becomes the enemy. And it becomes a story of trying to take down an overreaching church that has suppressed the will of the people. And that's where, that's where the storylines diverge and they get really interesting. Those are the two major decisions. Which house you go into, and if you choose the Black Eagles, whether or not you go with or without Edelgard. That's it. No other decision matters. Not a single one. In that regard, I'm not too surprised with Fire Emblem in that way. Other Fire Emblem games have been pretty similar, where you don't really have a lot of choice in what you do. Many other Fire Emblem games tend to focus on one singular storyline. There was the Fates series of Fire Emblem games that literally different cartridges had different games, or different storylines, and you had to get both cartridges, and then that unlocked the ability to have a third storyline. That was a little bit much, especially since, the stories end up kind of playing pretty similar anyway. In this case, the storylines also tend to play out very similarly. There are certain beats and plot points that are hit no matter what house you go with. There's a lot of reuse of various battlefields, even deep into the late game. And so there's not a ton of surprise in that regard. And so that's what I particularly didn't like about the game, is that a lot of the beats were pretty repetitive as you explore the different storylines. But what I will say is that there are surprises along the way that make playing through the different storylines worth it in my mind. Each story is a good 100 hours of gameplay, depending on how you play your game. You can speedrun it and probably cut that down to like a fourth of that time, but you're still clicking through a lot of dialogue, you're clicking through a lot of cinematics, and you're clicking through a lot of gameplay to do that. And then there's a lot more grinding that can be done to maximize all of your different characters that you could easily spend 150 hours or 200 hours in a single playthrough, maxing out all your characters. And there's certain benefits to playing through a series, because once you play through one storyline, you can get into New Game Plus, and all the characters that you trained in that previous save file will retain a lot of the extra benefits that they had before. So it can be worth it to go, finish one story, do New Game Plus, recruit all those previous characters into a different household, and so on and so forth, until you have, everybody maxed out as far as you can go. The story in my mind also felt it was very church-centric. There's a lot of design elements and story points. Excuse me, I need to get a little bit of water real quickly. This is the this is the peril of doing this live and talking for an hour straight instead of recording it, prior. We're doing it live, but there's a lot of emphasis around this church, worship of the church, these gods. You learn that literally the gods walk among you. They are these actual characters that you play with. Including, and here's a big spoiler, Flane happens to be one of the gods, one of the goddesses rather, and they are this, there's some wonkiness that I'm not going to spoil here. If you care, you can read into it. There's other places you can get spoiled on that. You can see even on her little card here, her age is question mark, right? Come on. Every other character has an age, between the ages of 15 and 18, or 23 in the case of Mercedes, I suppose. And then a lot of the teachers, obviously, are much older. You can see your own character has an age of question mark. Shamir is 25. Manuela's age is secret because she is an older woman and doesn't want to give her age. Hanneman is 51, you know, so on and so forth. So, you know, different character, even on their little roster cards. But because the game is so focused around this one church and this one kind of very strange belief, that's part of why I didn't like this game. Obviously, I liked it enough to play through all of the storylines, but I wish that there would have been a little bit more fantasy and less of the kind of European Christian kind of aspect to a lot of the bishop and church kind of related story. You can also see that there's no variety in the species in this game. Everyone's a human, or at least looks human. There is another 2 races of people, but they're also very human-like as well. There are no beast people. There are no elves. There are no dwarves. There's none of that kind of fantasy element that I like in my RPGs. And even in other Fire Emblem games, you would have people that can transform into beast people, or that would ride birds, or different things like that. And that's another thing, like, the classes were pretty much kind of scrunched together. In previous games, the range of classes that characters could take would be really, really broad. But those classes would also be kind of restricted to specific characters. Whereas in this game, any character can be pretty much any class. That's something that I do like. I really like that any character can be just about any class. So you can make all of your characters cavalry if you want, and have a massive, mass charge. You can make all of your characters the armored knights, and make it just impossible to get through your lines. There's a lot of fun that you can have with the gambits and the battalions. There's a lot of fun that you can have with a lot of the different special weapons that you get later in the game. There's a lot of fun that you can have mixing and matching the various skills that you get. All of those systems I really, really like. I wish that they would put more time into the story and into branching out some of the classes rather than into this monastery-centric map like I was shown before. Where was it? Not that one, that's something else. This one. I really wish this whole thing had been simplified. There is so much time and so many fetch quests that is just padding of the game in this screen, in this world. You have to run and fast travel and talk to all these different characters and run back and forth between characters to do fetch quests. This was the least entertaining part of the game, but it was necessary in order to get the most out of your characters. This I don't like. I would be happy to go without this in the future. I know in the previous Fire Emblem games, Awakening and Fates, they've done little base building things and things like that, and I preferred those a little bit better. The current ones, this Monastery thing, not a fan. Not a fan. It takes a long time to load. It takes a long time to run from place to place. You're clicking through just long lines of dialogue. And a lot of times most of the plot points are not even here. They're in the actual maps. So in some cases, this feels like a tacked on system. So that I didn't like. But on the flip side, it's nice to be able to talk to your characters outside of the battlefield, to be able to take care of your support conversations outside of the battlefield, whereas previous Fire Emblem games, you had to match up your characters inside the battle and pretty much use up a turn talking to each other. I'm already losing my voice, I apologize. So I think we're gonna wrap up a little bit here. All in all, I really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it enough to play through it completely. I enjoyed it enough to play through it another 3 times to finish all the storylines. I played through it enough to max out a lot of characters and all this other kind of stuff. I did not do a lot of the hard mode stuff. I kept it casual. I treated it as a very relaxing game for me to enjoy the storyline, to enjoy the differences between the different run-throughs. I enjoyed talking to all the characters. There was a lot of different neat relationships. What I hope for in the future is that they retain this ability for each character to be any class, but let's bring a little bit more fantasy into my fantasy. You know what I mean? Let's bring back the Manicheets and the Beast People and other things like that to add that variety. Did you have a favorite route? I really enjoyed Claude's route the most, the Golden Deer. There are a lot of really sassy characters in that line, and the story had a happy ending. I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I would rather have the happy ending rather than the really crappy, tragic endings that the other ones have. There's a lot to keep track of, but it seems to lay it out all in a pretty good way to keep up relationships with the various characters so that they're more effective at battle. Exactly. So there's a lot that you do that is exactly that. That is just making sure that the characters have, their various relationships are improved, and there's a lot of neat story and little quirks and quips and things that the characters will do with and around each other. The way they treat each other based on their personality tropes and things like that is a lot of fun to explore. And you can spend a lot of time just trying to match up the different characters to have them, build up the relationships and go through their various support conversations. Was there anything that took me by surprise? The first playthrough, I was really surprised by the monsters. So we played through earlier on. I showed you how to tackle a monster. That was a system that I did like. It really forced you to consider how you position your models and how you tackle those monsters to keep them from running amok. Because they can destroy your units really quickly. I really like that system. I was a little bit surprised by certain story elements that I'm not going to go too far into. There are some good surprises in each of the different storylines. And what's really great is that through each storyline, you can kind of see the what if. What if for example, if you choose Golden Deer, and you see how Dimitri, his story plays out, you can see how that becomes different versus if you chose Blue Lions to start with Dimitri. So there are little kind of like neat what-ifs that you get answered as you play the game. Through the different routes. The game also does reward you for doing the New Game Plus. It rewards you for building up the support levels. It rewards you for maxing out different classes. So it rewards the grind. You feel like you're making progress when you do get different things leveled up. There's a lot of systems that I haven't really talked about, but there are many, many guides out there online. There's the whole Fire Emblem wiki to peruse. And one thing that I have not touched is that there is a DLC that adds a whole other storyline kind of embedded into the other storylines that adds a bunch of new characters. I have not played that yet, but I may play that in the future. I'll let you guys know on Twitter if I do and what I think about that. Overall, in terms of other Fire Emblem games that I have played, I would give this an 8 out of 10, right? I think that I had the most fun with Fates, personally. I know that's kind of a controversial take, but I really enjoyed Fates for the wide variety of characters and some of the beloved characters out of that series. But still, this game is strong and has some really nice characters. I just think that certain things, I want more fantasy. I just want more fantasy in my Fire Emblem games. So I hope that in future Fire Emblem games, it's a little bit more high fantasy and less religion-based, I suppose. Less school-based. Because it very much played like it could have been anything. This could have been a game that wasn't a Fire Emblem game at all. And was instead about, a Catholic school children, learning in a boarding school or something like that. That was the big feeling that I got. And personally, the boarding school experience for me, not great. There was a time when I was a little tyke where that was on the table. in terms of me and my dragon family. So, not a huge fan of that whole situation. I would recommend getting it if you like storyline, if you like tactical combat. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of little things to explore. There are a lot of menus that you kind of have to slog through and tutorial that you kind of have to get used to. But when you get into the mode of it, everything becomes kind of second nature. That said, I'll leave a moment as I get another drink for anybody that has any further questions. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap up from here. I will say that of the characters, I really liked Petra, and I really liked Dorothea. I also really identified with Linhardt because they're a very sleepy character, and I dig that. I like Edelgard. I know not a lot of people would agree. I like Shamir. I also kind of like Sylvain. And I really like Ash. Ash was such a good character. In terms of his kind of side story that he had through all of this. So, yeah, big fan of a lot of the different characters. So yeah, with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you everyone for watching. Obsidian Bubble, iPadunk, Swift James for chatting and asking questions. I do appreciate that. I hope this has helped you, whether you want to make the decision to pick up the game or not. I hope to be able to do more reviews like this in the future, especially with games that I'm a little bit more familiar with, like Fire Emblem, the Fire Emblem series. Critiquing the game, do you think there is any part of the game that was underused? I think the magic system was really simplified when it didn't need to be. And I think, like I said before, the whole exploring the monastery thing could have been fleshed out better or made different in a way that was more compelling. That was just not my favorite system. But it did give you a lot of control, a lot of nitty-gritty control if you care about it. So, you know, there's that. But in terms of the next stream, I'm hoping to get back into Minecraft on Saturday. So I hope to see you guys there, back in Goldtail SMP. Next week, I will probably... I'm thinking about doing an art stream on Wednesday. So hopefully you guys can join me for that. We can chill out and do some drawing. And other than that, thank you guys again so much for watching. Farewell, take care, and I hope to see you all again very soon.